It was supposed to be just another glitzy night. The kind that feels ripped straight out of a movie, with lights glittering overhead, crystal glasses clinking, and pricey perfumes swirling in the air. But right there, smack dab in the middle of that high society setup, where smiles look more formal than heartfelt, something totally off-script happened. A little kid, tiny and unassuming, cut across the ballroom like he was carrying a secret the adult world had long forgotten. He looked up, gently tugged the billionaire's sleeve, and dropped a line that popped the bubble of perfection. "My dad's got the same birthmark as you. You know those truths that come gift-wrapped in innocence? They don't bother knocking. They just barge in and turn everything upside down." The billionaire, who was used to running the show, got blindsided. A mark, a body detail he'd always had but never cared about until now. Funny how little things can punch holes in giant certainties. Happens to all of us. Sometimes it's a random combo, an old trinket, a song. Ever happened to you? That feeling that something seemingly silly is the key to a locked room in your memory? And that's where the sneaky lesson lives. Life is always dropping clues, but only the folks paying attention find them. Most people sprint through the days and blow right past those signs. Want a simple drill? Grab a notebook and jot down 3 moments from the last few months when some tiny thing stirred you up. Then chew on what that might be trying to show you. Sounds goofy, but sometimes one throwaway line is all fate needs to open a new path. Speaking of new paths, something was about to shift in Alexander's life, and he hadn't a clue. Alexander Grant's entrance into that ballroom felt like a maestro taking the podium without raising his voice. The place was already breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, fresh flowers everywhere, and a backdrop of classical music whispering, "Yep, this place is next level." And there, center stage, was him, the billionaire who'd racked up fortune and admiration. Every step turned heads, not cause of fame, but cause of that sense of purpose. If you've ever heard someone speak with real conviction, you get it. Presence like that can't be taught. You feel it. When he hit the stage, he wasn't just another dude talking donations. He was a leader, someone who knew turning wealth into impact carried weight. "Together, we can change lives," he said, and it wasn't empty talk. He spoke about education, health, the future. That, my friend, is what most speeches are missing. Truth. If you've ever hit a charity gala just to snap a pic with a flute in hand, you know it's easy to look engaged. The hard part is backing word with action. Need inspo? Study people like Muhammad Yunus, the microcredit guy, or Mackenzie Scott, Bezos' ex, quietly dropping billions with surgical precision. Still, something slipped off script that night. While applause echoed and Alexander's charm hung in the air like an expensive scent, a strange vibe crept in. It felt like being watched, but not by cameras or journos. Something older, more personal. Know that itch when you feel you're about to remember something huge, but can't quite grab it. That, and no ballroom sparkle, could drown it out. Amid the swanky buzz, grown-ups wearing rehearsed grins and toasts chiming in sync, one odd detail stood out. A kid, solo, the kind of presence nobody expects, yet once noticed can't be unseen. He wasn't fazed by the luxury, wasn't dazzled by the pomp. His eyes were just hunting for something familiar. And right there, in that freeze-frame moment, he stepped up to Alexander and did the unthinkable, tugged his sleeve and spoke with that disarming simplicity only a child carries. "My dad's got a mark just like yours." Boom. Those words dismantle a man who'd built empires. Not with offense, but with memory. Isn't that how big truths hit us? No warning, no ceremony. Kids have that gift. They say what they feel, zero filter. Maybe we should learn from them more than we think. If you hang with kids, listen up. Ask less, listen more. You'll be blown away by the wisdom packed into an 8-year-old with messy hair. Alexander crouched down, locked eyes with the boy, finding something time had stolen. Connection without agenda. The kid, Oliver, had that rare spark in his gaze, the sparkle of someone who still believes the world can be good. Wild how fate uses simple setups to remind us of the essentials. Sometimes, all it takes is pausing to hear someone with nothing to prove, yet everything to teach. In that moment, Alexander realized the encounter wasn't random. It was an invite, a call that would echo for a long time. For a split second, everything froze. Lights, voices, flashes, they blurred around Alexander. That innocent reveal, dropped so casually by a kid, hit deep. He looked at his own arm like he'd never seen it. That crescent moon birthmark, subtle, that never meant squat till now. It felt like a code, a clue to something bigger. Funny how we only value certain details once an outsider points them out. How many marks do you carry without clocking what they mean? He squatted lower, studying Oliver with a mix of tenderness and puzzle. It's a moon, too? Just like mine, he asked, almost like confirming a forgotten password. Oliver beamed, waving his little hands. Yep, a moon. That tapped a spot Alexander barely remembered. Childhood. The kid's purity sliced through all the layers of status, money, power, straight to the soul. Pro tip. When something shakes you like that, don't brush it off. Write it down. Reflect. Those are the gold dust clues on your path. More than surprise, Alexander felt something thump inside. Nostalgia. Suspicion like the past had just knocked. And it wasn't just a mark. It was a look, the vibe, that deja vu. Sometimes life whispers before it yells. Problem is, we're so busy we don't hear. But right there, facing Oliver, Alexander started listening. Though he couldn't explain it, he sensed. That meeting was just the tip of a thread begging to be pulled. While the adults rebooted their polite smiles and toasted empty promises, Alexander knelt, wrapped in a convo worth more than any funding round. Oliver, with that light, curious style, fired questions like he already knew the answers, just checking. Are you important? He asked, as if unaware he was chatting with one of the nation's power players. And Alexander, instead of listing titles or fortunes, dropped a simple truth. The most important folks are the ones who care. Right then, something in Alexander started to shift. He saw Oliver not just as a charismatic kid, but a mirror, a flash of who he used to be, before numbers and events hijacked his essence. Here's a priceless lesson. Sometimes life hands you mini-mentors. Kids who, in their simplicity, expose what your grown-up mind hid for survival. Want to test it? Hang around children with more listening, less rules. Throw open-ended questions. You'll be stunned by the depth a pre-filter worldview brings. The chat stayed light, but packed with meaning. Oliver wanted to help, not for show, 'cause helping felt like part of who he was. That touched Alexander in a way he hadn't felt in years. The purity of wanting to help with zero agenda echoed in his mind. It was like rediscovering a piece of himself he thought had vanished. Maybe, just maybe, that moment was the start of something way bigger than any charity gala could serve up. The world around seemed to snap back, but Alexander didn't. The music, the laughter, the glass clinks, distant, like from another dimension. He still felt Oliver's light tug on his sleeve, those words echoing like an old whisper from a forgotten time. Rare lesson. Not every impact comes crashing in. Sometimes it's a silence after the right sentence that changes you forever. Pay attention. Big life pivots usually start subtle. As Oliver drifted back to his dad, Alexander lingered, staring. He tried rationalizing, but something deeper worked inside, like hearing an old song and getting that throat lump without knowing why. Emotional memory. A password to something the mind erased, but the heart still recognizes. If you felt it, you know. If not, brace yourself. Some tiny thing will nudge what you thought was buried. Alexander, the billionaire known for predictions and control, was swept by a mix of emptiness and urgency, like he'd just been handed a clue to a personal riddle, and ignoring it would be shredding a treasure map. He didn't know what it was, didn't know what he was looking for, but he knew this was a beginning. And when life offers you a beginning disguised as coincidence, there are only two roads: move forward or keep running. Even surrounded by glam and flattery, Alexander was miles away, at least mentally. The kid was gone, but the question stuck. Who's his dad? The doubt hammered like hiding a truth waiting to be faced. So, true to style, he acted quietly, 'cause too many questions at an event like that raise eyebrows. Ever felt that? Knowing you need more intel, but having to keep your cool? Yeah. He floated from group to group, wearing that social grin everybody recognizes, the smile that asks something that sounds casual, while inside, your heart's counting beats. That's a skill worth mastering. Light touch investigation. Works for everything, from sniffing office politics to finding out who's truly on your side. Practical tip? In meetings or circles, toss open questions. Listen more than you talk, and read expressions. What unsaid often screams louder than any speech. During one of those surgical chats, a name popped. Daniel Carter. Simple, direct. Someone present, but not in the usual cliques. He's Oliver's dad. A woman said like dropping an old buddy's name. In that moment, Alexander felt a door swing open. He had no clue what was beyond, only that he had to walk through. When destiny starts leaving breadcrumbs, buddy, you either follow or spend life asking what if. When he finally spotted Daniel, Alexander froze. It wasn't just recognizing the name, it was the face, the resemblance, that uncanny, almost mystical sense of staring at an alternate reflection of yourself, like time and choices had sketched different versions of the same source. Ever had that? Meet someone for the first time, yet feel you've known them forever? That ain't coincidence, that's intuition. And when you honor it, hidden truths usually surface. Daniel looked more laid back, like a guy who lives day to day without cameras or social expectations. Still, there was something. The half smile, firm eyes, even the posture. Alexander, a die-hard data guy, for once couldn't ignore the force of what he felt. Power lesson. Not everything that matters can be proven off the bat. Some connections need feeling before explaining. That applies to business and personal life alike. A handshake, eye contact lasting a beat too long, and the convo began, loaded with subtle tension, the kind that comes before big reveals. It wasn't just about a kid or a charity gig. It spanned decades and buried memories. Sometimes the past doesn't knock. It shows up wearing your own face. Slowly, the talk that started with polite smiles shifted temperature. Alexander, master polished speeches, now spoke low and cautious, like tiptoeing across a minefield of memories. Daniel toggled between calm and a guarded look that hinted at stories he'd rather keep tucked. Moral: the biggest secrets often live in pauses between simple phrases. That's where pain and answers hide. When Daniel mentioned raising Oliver alone and hinted at his past with protective tone, Alexander sensed this man knew more than he let on. There was weight in the subtext. The lack of details spilled more than any tale. If you talk to someone who's lost a lot, you get it. Words shrink, but eyes, they shout. Real listening demands more than ears. It needs presence. To understand someone, watch more than hear. And ask fewer to find out, more to understand. Daniel shared a tangled past, tragic childhood, absent parents, broken ties. He mentioned an uncle, a loss, rumors of a child with each word. Alexander felt like unearthing a box he'd buried unknowingly. Stories began aligning, even without proof. And the heart, that thing he pretended not to use, pounded. This was a kickoff to a truth no spreadsheet could capture. Some inheritances don't come in vaults. They come in memories, in faces wearing your marks. As the convo deepened, pieces on the memory board slid into place. Daniel, gaze distant, dropped a name, Henry, an uncle, not just any, the hushed name in Alexander's recollections. The one family's mutter low, like talking about a ghost roaming hallways. Here's a gem. Everyone's got that name in their history. A broken link, an untold tale. Try a revealing exercise. Ask the oldest relative about the person nobody mentions. Prepare for surprises. While Daniel talked tragedy sketchy on facts, Alexander felt time rewinding inside. Blurry images of family parties, laughter, yet that weird something hovering, like living on a cracked foundation and noticing only now. Sometimes you need guts to dig where it might hurt, but that's where the root of who we are hides. Without grasping the past, it's impossible to write a truthful future. The reveals didn't come with timestamps or paperwork. They came loaded with emotion, hesitation. That weight only survivors carry. That's what separates small talk from life-changing convo. Daniel wasn't just telling stories. He was peeling wounds. And Alexander, heart wide open for the first time in ages, listened. A bridge was growing between them. And even clueless of its destination, they felt they were crossing into something vital, a line separating them from truth. That night, Alexander's penthouse didn't feel grand. It felt hollow. Panoramic view, designer furniture, cushioned silence, all fake next to the emotional mess boiling inside. So he did something rare, flipped off autopilot and hit a bookshelf he'd ignored for years, pulled an old album, blue dust like summoning memories, flipped pages demanding attention debt. Here's a power move people skip. Revisit your own story, not just in photos, but those memories you dodge. Seeing childhood pics, same arm mark, same curious look. Something inside cracked and refused at once. He saw Oliver there, reflected in the past. Funny, sometimes the answer you chase is boxed atop your closet. Literally. Try it. Grab an old object, note, letter. Emotional relics light up corners reason can't reach. Memory is not museum piece. It's a future-building tool. Alexander decided, no more guessing. Time to investigate. Whipped out his phone and made the call that could flip everything. Hired a private investigator. 'Cause certain moments in life, you can't stall what your heart's set on. And listen, moving forward sometimes demands a descent into the past. Like going down to the soul's basement, dusting off old truths, seeing what still beats. Alexander was ready. He just didn't know each answer would come packed with more questions. The meet with the PI was hush-hush, but the impact of his first words was anything but subtle. Daniel Carter grew up in Cedarwood, he said, like lighting a prairie on fire. Cedarwood. That name didn't just knock. It kicked in Alexander's memory door. The town where he spent chunks of childhood, before ambition got loud. Interesting. Answers you seek often sit where you ran from. Ever thought of revisiting your hometown with fresh eyes? As the PI rattled off connections, dates, possible blood ties, Alexander could barely tame his pulse. There's record of an uncle, Henry Grant, and a mysterious disappearance, all in Cedarwood. It sounded like movie script, but real life was striking hard. Pro tip: when someone or something from the past resurfaces out of nowhere, don't brush it off. Could be nostalgia, could be a shot at healing. Then came the aha. He had to go back. Not for cheap nostalgia, but something deeper. Maybe for the first time, he had a mission without dollar signs, just courage. Courage to crack emotional drawers, walk streets echoing memories, and maybe face who he was before the world saw today. 'Cause sometimes, to find yourself, you gotta first get lost where you started. As that African proverb goes, if you don't know where you're going, go back to where you came from. The road to Cedarwood felt longer than he remembered. Not in miles, but in memories surfacing every turn. Alexander stared out the window as scenery morphed. Concrete fading to green, city noise swapped for the soundtrack of thoughts. This wasn't just any trip. It was a return. Reflection shot. When's the last time you went back to a place that shaped you? Going back isn't regression. It's revisiting with awareness to grasp what you become. On arrival, nothing seemed changed, which hit hardest. Simple houses, weathered faces, smell of wet earth. But Alexander's gaze was new. Time transforms places when you return with a different soul. Want a reconnection exercise? Pick a childhood landmark. Even a street, a park, a school. Go there. Observe. Write what you feel. The present always whispers something new about the past when you're mature enough to listen. Inside the old family house, now in ruins, he didn't see peeling walls or dusty furniture. He saw echoes. Echoes of childhood laughter, mom's cooking aroma, a shadow that once belonged. In that silent backdrop, he heard the phrase confirming everything. "You came back, didn't you?" An elderly lady, straight out of memory's depths, recognized him before he spoke. Like the town ghosts and stories had all been waiting for what was next. Her voice was fragile, each word hauling decades. Mentioning Henry dropped like a weight. Alexander listened in still silence. It felt like time rewound, little him overhearing hushed chats behind doors. No, not every story is told aloud. Sometimes, what shapes a family is the silence. If you want to understand yours, Start asking about what was never discussed. She spoke of an accident, trauma that muted everyone. Then the details sparking truth. There was a child. A kid whisked away, destination unknown, wrapped in pain and protection. It smelled like fiction but tasted real. Here's the thing. Unspoken pain turns to mystery, and unresolved mystery turns to weight. So, dig your roots. Finding a family rupture can heal unseen wounds. She didn't dish all answers, but left enough to stoke Alexander's curiosity. If you're looking for family, you might find what you seek, she said, handing a key but no map. In that dusty house. He got it. The past wasn't buried. It was waiting for someone brave enough to dig. Maybe that key opened way more than an old memory. Walking Cedarwood felt like stepping on his own memories. Each street a vintage photo. Each house an unfinished sentence. Alexander sensed the dirt underfoot mixed with the weight of unspoken years. Reflect. Revisiting formative places doesn't just show scenery. You bump into versions of you left behind. That encounter, if you're up for it, can top any Lux therapy. Passing a white-fenced, forgotten garden home, a silver-haired lady called his name. Not shocking someone remembered him, but what she said next made his heart race. She also knew the story. The accident. The kid taken. Spoke with sorrow and urgency, like needing to unload a secret before time snatched it too. Listening to elders is life's most underrated tool. That's where the unwritten stuff lives. She dropped a name, Daniel Harper. Another Daniel. Another link. Lives just over there. She nodded, maybe holding answers. Alexander mentally scribbled it, pulse racing, and kept walking, feeling closer every step. That's the power of intentional journeys. Move with purpose, and even rocks seemed to whisper directions. In a town that looked asleep, the past was waking, calling his name. On that quiet street, wind rustling, creaky gate whining, Alexander stopped outside Daniel Harper's house. Outwardly modest. Inside, he sensed heavy truths. When Daniel opened, his look revealed what word hadn't. He knew who Alexander was, why he'd come. Truth bomb. When truth shows up, most folks recognize it by the eyes, not the dialogue. Sitting at the table with 2 coffees and thick silence, Alexander asked a question he'd waited a lifetime to voice. Daniel didn't flinch. My brother was Henry's son, he said calmly, the calm of someone who's cried enough. It was like snapping in the puzzle centerpiece. Everything clicked. Life hack. Truth pops up on its own timing. Sometimes it waits decades, but when it hits, it flips everything. The reveal brought more than relief. It brought duty. Alexander wasn't just rebuilding his story. He held a thread of a torn lineage. Think your family's story is boring? Guess again. Every family's got a fracture, a muffled truth, a shot at a fresh start. Few dig. There, in that humble home, 2 men realized they were about to stitch an old seam with fresh thread and truckloads of courage. The next reveal didn't scream. It whispered generations' weight. Daniel, eyes fixed on the past, let out, my brother, they said he died in that wreck. But I always heard he was taken. Not just memory, an open wound. Remember, some families choose silence over pain. But silence wounds too, just slower. Daniel recalled his mom, diverted gazes, hush-hush talks. Body feels what mind can't grasp. Buried truths show up as anxiety. Recurring dreams, the something's off vibe. If that rings bells, maybe face your family gaps with compassion, not fear. Alexander soaked it like finally getting subtitles on a lifelong movie. The accident, the silence, the split, sense made. He realized it wasn't just past. It was mission now. When you're picked to rescue truth, not a fluke. You're the one with the tools and empathy to heal what cracked. After the heavy words settled, something shifted. No longer just stories and hunches. There was commitment. Alexander's gaze met Daniel's with resolve. We'll do this together, he said. It was a pact. From then on, not 2 guys holding random pieces, but allies. Note, some wounds only start healing after we quit hunting blame and start building bridges. They listed names, dug docks, vowed to salvage every truth time buried. Not just about what happened, about restoring what had snapped, Got a long-lost relative after a blow-up? Might still be time to rebuild. A simple "how you doing" can reopen pathways pride cemented. The past isn't a prison. It can be the foundation for something new. While mapping next steps, they talk about Oliver. The kid's purity now had a fresh meaning. He was the spark relighting a legacy, the bridge between what was and what could be. They both knew they couldn't drop the ball. Sometimes life gives a second shot. It rarely includes an instruction manual, just people. The question, will you ignore them or honor the call they represent? Now that you've dived into this story, time to reflect. What would you do if you got answers to your most nagging questions? Like Alexander, you have inside you the missing pieces for your life's puzzle. But you've got to be willing to face what got shoved aside, to chase truth where it got lost. Don't settle for who the world says you should be. Push further. Clock the signals life throws your way. Tiny as a kid's words or forgotten name. What you think's out of reach might be exactly what ties you to your real self. Best part, each discovery makes you stronger, more real, more you. So hit pause and ask yourself, are you ready for that journey? If yes, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can keep learning how to uncover your truth and flip your life, just like Alexander did. Don't let life cruise by without digging into its most priceless treasure, your true purpose.